Story 1. Am I the a-hole for hiding my girlfriend's heels before going to my sister's wedding? To start, I'm going to mention that I'm your typical 5'6" short guy. I hate myself for it. I'm openly insecure about it and have exhausted all solutions to fix the issue. I met my girlfriend 6 months ago. She met my family, and they embraced her right away. My sister invited her to her wedding and mentioned her in the wedding photos. I asked my girlfriend what shoes she was going to wear, and she showed me a pair of high heels that would have basically made her look 2 times taller than me. I asked if she could consider wearing sandals instead, since there were going to be photos, and I didn't want to look like a gnome standing next to her. She called me silly and brushed off my concerns, which was not appreciated. The day of the wedding, I hid her pair of high heels. She has only one set in the apartment because she moved out all the old ones after I asked her to. She tried looking for them and really seemed to think something strange happened. I started telling her to get up so we could get to the venue on time, and she ended up wearing flat sandals as a replacement. Everything went well, and I gave her high heels back once we got home. She was shocked when she saw me holding them. I admitted hiding them for the reasons I stated above, and she got mad at me and said that I shouldn't have done that and forced her to wear sandals that completely didn't match with the dress. She kept saying I got what I wanted, but she will forever look awkward in those photos wearing those sandals. I do think she had every reason to be upset with me, but what was I supposed to do after I made my wishes clear and she brushed them off knowing full well how I felt about those high heels? So am I the a-hole? I really thought of it as a harmless move, and I think she might have overreacted. I think both these people are a-holes. He admits he's insecure. He was insecure, and hiding someone's clothes, hiding something of theirs, is really very childish. She is also an a-hole because she's more concerned about how she looks than the person she's in a relationship with. Completely, they're both very superficial about what they're doing. So, yeah, he's an a-hole, but she is too. What do you think? Story 2. A customer wanted her ice cream crunchy, so I made it crunchy. I don't like that title. Ugh, sounds ominous. Briefly, during the pandemic, I worked as a manager at a Ralph's, a New York City area ice cream chain. And one night, as I'm helping out scooping, I hear a customer getting annoyed at the window and starting to get snippy with one of the young kids who was working the window. So I head over to smooth the situation as manager. The woman is mad because the hot fudge on her hot fudge sundae is hot and is going to melt the ice cream. I explained to her that hot fudge is indeed served hot, but she insists, so I make her a new sundae with magic shell topping instead, and let her keep the hot fudge one. By the time I return with that, the customer is stirring her spoon through another cup of cream ice, kind of like a sherbet she ordered, obviously about to complain about it. The flavor she ordered was called Graham Crunch, and she proceeded to tell me that there wasn't any Graham Crunch in it, that she orders this flavor all the time, and she knows that I am intentionally tricking her. I tell her that this is just how the flavor is, and I don't name or make the ice cream, but she isn't having it. She wants me to fix it. We've got some crushed graham cracker topping in the back, so as she is berating me, I just walk away from her and grab the entire container and come back to the window with it. At this point, we've got a line of people down the block because this lady has held us up, so there are lots of witnesses to what I was about to do. Without breaking eye contact with her, as she continues to tell me that I'm wrong about the ice cream, I scoop 6 days a week. I open the lid of the container and empty the entire thing over her cup of the offending ice cream. Graham crackers are everywhere. Her ice cream is now definitely crunchy. She loses her mind at this and starts yelling at me she knows the owner and will get me fired. I tell her, yeah, Steve is a nice guy. And she responds with, I've known Steve a long time. To which I respond, well, his name is John. Get out of here and don't bother my employees for free ice cream again. Now sufficiently embarrassed in front of the long line of customers, the lady leaves in a huff and indeed never returns. The next few customers left us $20 tips in the jar to make up for her. So the kids who worked for me left with quite a bit more in their pockets than they normally would and realized that their manager had their back. Very typical kind of New York behavior, don't you think? I could just imagine just pouring this whole thing of graham crackers over the ice cream. I'm sure there were a lot of people filming on their phones on this. I really wish I could see this up on YouTube. I would have loved to see that. Story 3. Entitled mom wants to skip the line, gets a lot more than she wanted. A need-to-know detail. It was fracking hot. It was about 35 degrees Celsius, but it felt like 44. Important detail for later. So I was standing in line at the checkout at my local supermarket. I think in total I had about 10 items. Some frozen goods, drinks, and snacks. I usually tend to take out one of my buds of my phone, so in case someone addresses me, I would hear it. At this time, the woman at the cash register was taking care of the payment of one client, and there was one person in front of me. And then suddenly, she appeared. The entitled mother in the story. Now honestly, she didn't look like it. She didn't even give off a mean vibe or anything. Even the way she started talking to me was overall nice and polite. At first, excuse me, do you mind if I skip ahead? I'm in a hurry. Now in general, if somebody politely asks me this and I don't have any urgent business of my own, I usually don't mind. This time, however, I didn't have that many groceries, so her delay would be at most a few minutes, while she was pushing a fully loaded shopping cart in front of her. So if I would have let her skip, I'd probably still be in the store for another 10 to 20 minutes. So I politely decline and tell her I will hurry as much as I can. Of course, this was a great offense. I had not given this woman her entitlement. She blew up instantly, yelling and screaming at me that she was in a hurry and, not kidding here, had to be home in time for her shows. Now at this time, I would like to point out that during this rant, she only said she had to be home in time for shows and that they were very important to her. There was nothing else making this urgent for her. This is an important bit later. Now, while this woman was going off, the person at the cash register went into ignore mode and just started scanning my groceries, which I loaded into a bag while the EM was going on about how I was garbage and they should ban me from the store. Now this should have been the end of it. Just turn around and go home and forget this happened. But then she said something that, 1, made me almost want to unalive her, 2, made this a postable story. While I was walking away, just about to put the earbud back in, she yells, "If you pass by my car, tell my son he's the reason he has to wait another half hour for me." Now, I'm not an extremely smart person, but in this moment, my brain made some connections quickly. What I realized was this. 1, again, it was very hot outside. 2, this woman had been in the store for a while, judging by the amount of groceries. 3, the entire parking lot of this store had almost no shade. 4, it was about 2 p.m., so the sun was just over its peak. I rush outside and start running past cars, scanning them for kids inside. Thankfully, one of the first cars I passed had a small child laying in the back seat. The kid is as pale as a ghost, sweating like crazy, and it looked like he was only half conscious. I run back inside, and to my utter astonishment, this shrew is having a conversation with the cashier while she's checking out her groceries. I grab her by the shoulders, spin her around, and yell almost straight to her face that her kid is literally expiring in your car, and if you don't do something about it right now, I'm smashing your windows and calling the cops. At first, she looked at me in complete confusion, probably never spoken like that before in her life. Then, the realization of what I told her sunk in, and she rushed outside. While she went outside, a man tapped me on the shoulder and asked what happened. I explained the situation by actually leaving out the bit at the cash register, just saying I saw the kid in the car and knew that this woman was probably the owner. He went outside, and when I came outside, the entitled mother suddenly rushed me and got in my face saying I was the reason she was in the store for so long and her son's current condition was my fault. Before I can even respond, the man that approached me earlier speaks up. Turns out, this man was an off-duty cop and had been in the store for a while, and as such knew that the actual delay caused by me could not have caused this. He also said he had already called an ambulance for the kid and the cops for her. I don't know what happened to the entitled mother, but she completely crashed. She just sat down on the pavement and started shaking her head, not saying much except the occasional sob or, "Not my fault." As for the ending, everything turned out okay for most parties. I stayed a while to give a statement to the cops and my contact info in case it went to court. The kid was okay afterwards, and since his mom got arrested, they called his dad or another male family member, I didn't ask, to accompany him to the hospital. As for the EM, I'm assuming she's going to have to stand trial for child endangerment. Not sure if she'll just get a fine or jail time. I hope she gets some kind of consequences. She should have brought the kid in with her. I don't know why she didn't. This was a very hot day, and the windows weren't even rolled down. Not that that would have made as much of a difference, but just completely self-centered. And that just delay of checking out 10 items and trying to force your way in front of somebody just shows even more entitlement. It's truly awful. I hope the consequences hit hard.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 4. My landlord shut off the electricity in the middle of a heat wave. We're in New York. Electricity is included in our rent. Yesterday, the landlord put notices on our doors warning that our power consumption was unreasonable. Trying to survive 100+ degree heat in a very poorly insulated building with no central AC will do that, I guess. She threatened to suspend service temporarily if we continued. The notice started with "Attention residents," and I saw identical papers on some other doors, so I assume it was directed at all tenants. 2 hours ago, she followed through with her threat. The power is out in my apartment. The hallways and stairs are barely lit. My landlord is not answering her phone. What can I do? With the kind of person she is, I'm worried that she'll just wait for the end of the extreme heat, evade consequences by turning the power back on, and pull this stuff again in the next heat wave. Just document everything. I am not a legal expert on anything, but I guess it's just time to make sure you read your contract or your rental agreement well and lawyer up, because this 100+ degree heat is going to really put someone in the hospital or worse. Definitely do what you can. Talk to anybody you know, see who knows a lawyer, find any good reputable lawyers and lawyer up on this if you think this is going to happen again. Story 5. I can't drive anywhere without permission? Okay, I'll follow that rule. Maliciously. This happened when I was 16 years old and just got my driver's license. My parents had me run to the store to pick up some groceries. I stopped by my friend's house on the way back home for maybe 5 minutes to show him I got my license and I was out driving alone. It was a really fun moment in the life of a 16-year-old. My stepmom, Mary Ann, freaked out. "We did not give you permission to drive to Bill's house. We told you to go to the store, and that is all." I told Marianne and my dad that they had let me drive to Matt's house the day before, so I didn't think it was a big deal. They went unreasonable and laid down the unbendable rule that set up the malicious compliance. You are not allowed to drive anywhere. We do not give explicit permission for you to drive. Period. End of sentence. Just because you were allowed to do it previously does not ever give you permission another time. Ever. Fast forward 3 days later. My 13-year-old stepsister has been a jerk to me all day, and I'm sick of her hogwash. She goes quiet for about 30 minutes and then comes out all sticky sweet. Hey, Brian, it's time to take me to ballet. I have taken her to ballet 3 days a week since I got my license. It's basically one of my chores, but I see it as my opportunity to say, forget you, to all 3 of them at once. Sorry, Tina, I'm not allowed to take you to ballet. The parents didn't let me take you, and I don't want to get in trouble. She screams, she cries, she begs, she threatens. She calls her mom and leaves a message. She calls my dad and leaves a message. Just like Steve Miller says, time keeps on slipping into the future. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to hang on to the bitter end and actually go through with it. I'm shaking, but I know I've got them completely to rights. No callback from the parents, and the clock goes on past the start of the show. Stepmom comes home, and Tina runs to meet her. Tina, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at ballet. I hear Tina tell her rendition of the story, leaving out how miserable she had been, and they go back and forth. Marianne comes pounding down the hall and yells, as the deity is my witness, you just wait till your father gets home. I had to stifle a laugh because I never really believed people actually said that. An hour later, Dad comes home, and the 2 of them go running out to meet him and tell him how horrible I was. I wait in my room for the hammer to fall. About 10 minutes later, my dad calls down the hall. Brian, would you please come here and talk to us? Well, Brian, you did it. What do you mean, Dad? You got us all, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. Okay, let's make this reasonable for everyone. And they did. They agreed that they were over the top. They recognized that Tina isn't always very nice to me, and they spoke to her about that. I was allowed to have reasonable freedom if I was driving somewhere, since I had good grades and had never been in trouble. I walked down the hall, back to my room, my back to my parents, with the world's biggest grin on my face. Absolutely the best way to resolve this situation. It's amazing that just this one act got everybody to self-reflect a little bit, and everybody realizing, okay, maybe this is unreasonable. She's being unreasonable. Let's try and make this fair. Absolutely amazing. I was expecting them to blow up and try to come down harder on him, but I'm glad it worked out. Story 6. You're closed, so everything is free. Backstory. So I work at a pretty big pretzel company, but for privacy reasons, I will call it Uncle Un's. Anyway, I had worked there for a year already, and this happened pretty early in my second. This particular pretzel place was inside a small amusement park in Pennsylvania, not Hershey Park. Important for later. All right, enough lame backstory. Now on to the juicy story. Cast. Me. Entitled mother. Tired dad. Not entitled. Tired kid. Story. So it was the last 5 minutes after my shift, so I'm tired and want to go home. We were busy cleaning and not paying attention to the window because normally most families would have left by this point. Then we hear a knock at our window. Now, I'm the cashier, so I walk up to the window and say the line I always say. Hi, how can I help you today? Entitled mother. Yeah, are you closed? Me. Yeah, we closed 5 minutes ago. Entitled mother. Great. Do you have any leftover pretzels? Me. Yes, we do. Why? Mother. Can I have them? Me. How many would you like? Entitled mother. 5. Me. All right, that comes to $21.15, $4.23 a pretzel. Mother, why aren't they discounted? Me, if you have a season pass, it's 15% off. Mother, no, you're closed, so the pretzels should be half off. Me, wanting to go home and stop caring. And why do you think that? Mother, you're closed, so that means the pretzels are a day old and should be discounted. We switch out our pretzels every 30 minutes. Me, those pretzels are only 30 minutes old. Mother, fine. Babe, do you still want them if they're full priced? Dad, I don't care. Hurry up so we can go home. Entitled Mother, fine, so can I get 15% off, right? Me, if you have a season pass, yes. Mother, no, I should get 15% off because you're closed. Me, ma'am, no. As you stated, we're closed, so we're no longer selling pretzels. I'm only offering them to you because my boss wants as many sold as possible. Entitled Mother, see? You can't sell them, so they're free. Me, no, they're not. I will take them home and eat them for my dinner. I was too tired to care as I had just worked a 5-hour shift. I know that's not a lot, but it was 95 degrees Fahrenheit and I had to deal with kids the whole time. Plus, I'm 15 and they can't have me on for much longer. Entitled Mother, you don't need them. My kids are hungry. Me, then buy them some food. Entitled Mother, no, they're free. Me, for me, yes. For you, they're $4.23. Tired Kid, Mommy, can we go home now? Entitled Mother, starts screaming something that no one but dogs can understand and leaves. I know this isn't as interesting as some of the others in this video, but I just had to post this and was waiting on getting enough karma. Man, just trying to finagle a deal. I think she was thinking she could just get a quick deal or just try to finagle some kind of food, some kind of deal on the food that she thought was a day old. I thought she was being all slick and everything, but nope, this person's not having it. And, being 15, you can't eat pretzels for dinner. I can't do that.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.